Hello, everyone. This is Suneve, and I'm coming to you with Rose Petals on Eyeless Jack X Reader by Afflicted-Alibis. We're going to be starting off with Chapter 27, The Harbinger. You were a shaking mess. Jeff led you down the hall where a few other cult members were waiting together, their large hoods covering their faces. Your cuffs were still loose around your wrists, but being easily removable. You kept your head down, rehearsing the plan over and over again in your head. That plan was risky. You doubted if it would even work, but you had no choice but to bet everything on it anyways. Just please, please let this work out. One of the members bowed their head in a nod before they all turned and began down the hallway, taking the lead for you and Jeff. They led you to the main room where dozens of more cult members stood around the sigil, all of the candles scattered about the room now lit. At this point, you had broken out into a cold sweat. I just have to go along with it long enough for Jeff to apply the mixture to his knife. I just have to. Growling interrupted your thoughts, and as Jeff pushed you towards the center, your eyes locked into the sounds of chains rattling, seeing Jack hunched over on the ground with the iron collar around his neck and a cultist holding him there like a dog on a leash, sharp teeth biting and gnawing at his own lips. Apparently, Zeke's kidneys had barely sufficed, though he did not appear completely lost, as he was not yanking and ripping at his chains. They're going to sacrifice him again, Jeff explained quickly. But we won't let them. You and your brother are the food because they have to agitate the demon inside of him in order to fully transform him. And like hell, they're going to give up some of their own. That thing will be there, like I said. Don't worry about any of that shit, though. Just go along with it. Jack will be just conscious enough for us to use him to our advantage. But you gotta talk to him, yeah? You nodded, glancing at the door to the cell. You really think he'll recognize me? Who could forget your annoying voice? Static crackled in your ears, and you stared up at the Harbinger, eyes wide. Jeff shoved you onto the sigil, your feet scuffing on all of the dried blood as you stumbled to maintain your balance, and then he went to stand in the open spot near the Harbinger. You could feel all of their eyes on you. Though yours were stuck on Jack, he pricked at his own face with his nails, and you were unsure as to how aware he was about what was going on. There was a loud, high-pitched crying, and your head whipped in the direction of it, immediately recognizing it. Two more cultists were approaching from a different hallway, carrying an unruly Liam to the middle. You watched as a few of the cultists parted, allowing them through. Liam was kicking and screaming for his life, but froze when he saw you. Neither of your eyes left one another as they launched him forward. The little boy flailing in his restraints as he stumbled toward you. Reaching out your hands, you snatched him up and pressed him against you, the relief flooding through and rimming your eyes with tears. You glared daggers at the two cultists that had brought him. It took two of you bastards to carry one little boy. You growled at them. They said nothing, only taking their place in the circle. Liam was now crying softly and your arms shaking. As you looked over him, you noticed the specks of blood and wondered just what things they made him witness. The static crackled in your ears once more, and Jack was then brought into the sigil by the cultists holding him. They removed the collar before stepping back to their place in the circle. Jack was now about a foot away from you, hunched over and back to you, as if he couldn't bear to face you. From there, you could make out his ragged breaths. Another cultist began to approach with another bucket of tar, as it began to step across the sigil to the three of you. Jeff lunged at the Harbinger without warning and reacted almost immediately, tendrils shooting out from behind and coiling around him. Jeff plunged the knife into the tendril wrapped around him, black blood spurting out as the faceless creature proceeded to squeeze him in pain and anger. The cultists around you were beginning to panic, a few drawing closer to grab a hold of you and Liam. Though Jack had been quick to attack at their sudden movements, springing upon them and tearing into them. You held Liam tightly to you, eyes locked on Jeff and static piercing your ears. Jeff grit his teeth in pain, the hood falling off as he writhed into the tendril's tightening grasp. Soon his struggling ceased, being replaced by desperate gasps for air as the tendril squeezed him tighter and tighter, and his grip on the knife still stuck in the tendril was now faltering. A pair of hands gripped you from behind, and you yelped, whirling around at a cult member that had managed to get a hold of you. A sharp headache was beginning to split through your skull from the static, and you fumbled to shove them off, hands flying from Liam to the hooded person. "Let go of me," you exclaimed, barely able to hear your own voice through all of the chaos. The cultist was suddenly yanked off of you and tackled to the floor by a now blood-covered Jack, his sharp teeth sinking into their neck. You let him be, grabbing Liam again and moving away as you whipped back around to look at Jeff again through your now blurring vision. You had to do something. You just had to. But what? Jeff was now limp, and your throat tightened at the sight of it. Though you had no time to worry whether he was dead or alive, as a pair of tendrils shot toward you, you tensed, jumping back and pulling a terrified Liam with you in an attempt to avoid it. No, 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 no. You muttered the word over and over in aimless panic and then let out an involuntary yelp as the tendril wrapped around one of Liam's tiny arms, effortlessly ripping him from your protective grasp and hoisting him into the air. Stop! You scrambled after it, eyes narrowed to try and see through the blurry vision, tears rimming your eyes and your heart slowly suffocating you with each devastating beat. Stop! Jack continued to feed on the chaos around you. Stop! You reached out, Liam's screams of sheer terror wheeling your wobbly legs forward. Stop! This was it. Everything was over. You thought it so many times before, but it was for real this time, wasn't it? Your ankle collided with something, and as you crashed face first onto the floor, you realized it had been one of the splayed out tendrils moving around you. Stop! You yelled. Everything fell silent. No, the static fell silent. The back of your throat stung, and then Jeff's limp body collapsed to the floor with a loud thud. The Harbinger was frozen right in front of you, all of its tendrils holding completely still. You stared with wide eyes, up at the being from where you were on the floor, brows scrunching together in confusion. What was it doing? And why? Why had it stopped and let go of Jeff? There was simply no way it was listening to you. What? Unless... The one who contributes their own substances will then be able to manipulate to their own desires. Everything slowly began to piece together in your mind, forming the whole but messy picture. Of course. You had offered up your own saliva, your own hair for the mixture that had been injected into it moments ago through Jeff's knife. Manipulate it to their own desires. You could control it. Had your demanding cry activated, or had it simply been coincidence? It doesn't matter, you quickly told yourself. Blinking, you found your way back to what was going on around you. You began to frantically search for something to command. You look at Jack and the remains of the cultist, then you looked back up at the Harbinger, speaking in as loud and as clear of the voice you could muster. Tell all of your followers to leave us alone and to leave the room. The shift in the air was subtle, but you had picked up on it, and it was an unnerving one that made it feel as if the world around you was tilting. At first, you did not understand. Then you thought it was the sensation of the connection between you and the Harbinger due to the mixture. And then you realized you had not felt that the first time. No, the tilt in the atmosphere was its anger. It was being controlled by you, and it did not like it. The few remaining cultists in the room that had not been torn to shreds seemed to hesitate, and then all dipped their heads in unison before moving. One of them narrowly avoided Jack as they joined up with the others, and all departed from the room. The stench of the fresh, mangled corpses around you burned your nose, but you tried not to let that nor the sounds of Jack feasting distract you, retaining your focus solely on the Harbinger. Tell? Footsteps from all directions alerted you, and you looked around to see dozens of proxies appearing from the hallways. Tell your proxies not to hurt us, and tell them to go away as well. In moments, all of them had disappeared, and your eyes landed on Jeff's unmoving body still near the Harbinger. You needed to hurry up. You were going to let us go. You spoke slowly, carefully choosing your words. Jeff, Jack, Liam, and I are all going to leave this place unharmed. Even when we are gone, you are not going to send any of your proxies or cult members after us. You will not go after us. You will no longer want anything to do with us. The Harbinger was still. Nothing happened. All it did was keep its faceless head angled in your direction, silently listening against its will. Jeff will be forgiven. Jack won't be important to anyone anymore. Liam and I will be nothing to you. Were these commands? Did they count as one? Would these last even when after the mixture wore off? Even the instructions were unsure as to how these things worked, and you could only hope that the things you told it to do would carry over even after the mixture had left his body. Nothing. The eldritch being was eerily still, as if it were a statue. The atmosphere, however, remained perfectly animated with its hatred toward you and everything that was happening. You could hardly stand the way it pricked at you, but there were more important things to worry about. You turned to Jack, who looked up at the sound of you approaching, and your heart was pounding. Jack? The gray man in front of you gave no response, swallowing bits of kidney before snarling at you and beginning to creep towards you. You took a step back. Jeff, you better be right. Jack, it's me, YN. You told him, unable to help the nervous shake in your voice. You remember me, right? Jack stopped at the name, seemingly puzzled, before continuing to near you. This time you stayed where you were, puffing out your chest in a feeble attempt at bravery. Jack. He spoke louder, more definite. Jack, listen to me. It's YN. You know me, goddammit. He swiped out a hand and he flinched, only to feel it clasp one of yours, his gloves smearing warm blood against the skin of your hand. You stiffened, staring into his empty sockets as he looked up at you, breathing deeply. A noise emitted from him, one that sounded like an attempt to speak, and then he let out a growl of annoyance, shifting where he was and squeezing your hand. YN. It had come out quietly distorted but audible nonetheless. He smiled, his small touch somehow managing to ease you up a little even during such grim circumstances. Yeah? You said, returning the squeeze. It's me. His head lowered, but he said nothing more, his hand gradually slipping from yours. Lion? It was Liam's voice that time. You rolled around to your little brother, seeing him now standing across the room, no longer in the grasp of the tendrils. You hurried over, bringing your hands to his face and beginning to gently wipe away his tears. Are you alright? You asked. He nodded, looking past you. Is he going to be okay? Static faintly crackled in your ears as you followed his line of sight, realizing he was referring to Jeff. Shit, you mumbled, hurrying over to where the scarred man was still on the floor. Your nerves were in a frenzy being so close to the Harbinger as you knelt down next to the man, but you fought against the instinctual urge to flee as you put a hand on Jeff. Jeff? No response, no movement. Is he even still alive? You rolled him onto his back, where you checked for any signs of life and let out a huge sigh of relief. He's breathing, somehow. He was, after all he had endured in the Harbinger's grasp. You looked over your shoulder to Jack, calling to him. He reacted to his name, head turning your way, and it seemed he was slowly coming back to himself after all those kidneys he had eaten. Help me carry Jeff? You asked. He did not move immediately, perhaps processing your request, before going over to you and to the opposite side of the man on the floor. Liam inched his way over to the both of you as you and Jack worked together to hoist Jeff off of the filthy, blood-covered floor. This way, you said with a grunt, moving in the direction of the exit you recalled Jeff telling you about back in the cell when going over the plan, and then stopped. Wait, he told Jack, looking over to the Harbinger. It can make an exit for us. Jack looked between you and the being a few times, seeming to just now realize that it was not attacking, only standing there complicitly. What do you mean? The mixture lets me control it somehow. Jeff managed to get it in before, you explained simply, trailing off as you glanced down at the unconscious man in your arms. Jack shook his head in disbelief. Whatever, he said, voice strained and raspy. Just do it what you need to get us out of here. With a nod, you put all of your focus back on the Harbinger. Take us to the nearest exit of this place right now. For some reason you could not grasp, every time you gave it a command, there were sparks of fear that would not do as you told it to, that would break out of whatever was binding it to your orders and kill you all in an instant. You knew it was just paranoia, you knew it was simply the natural terror you felt around the thing, but you could not help it. Against your own fearful worries, the creature had obeyed. Its tall, lanky body moved obtusely across the room, as if it were not used to moving somewhere without simply teleporting. With Jeff beginning to become heavy in your hold, you and Jack picked up the pace, following it as quickly as you could with Liam trailing anxiously behind. It led the three of you through the building, its thin frame taking up a surprising amount of room in the corridors. A faint trace of static remained crackling in your ears, and though you could not quite make out what that was supposed to mean, you hoped it meant nothing bad. Through the dim light in the hallway and past the eldritch being, you could see what appeared to be the door. You looked up at the Harbinger, your arms now straining with the weight of Jeff. Open the door for us, you managed out. It obeyed as it reached the door before the three of you, its bony fingers awkwardly clasping the handle and opening the door. A cool gust of wind eagerly pushed through the door and into the hallway, billowing against your sweaty, blood-stained features. You went slightly at it, hair standing on end with how cold the air was, and pressed on. Crickets welcomed you into the blackened, unknown surroundings. You grit your teeth, twisting your head to look back at the Harbinger once more. Close the door once more, and do as I said before. Let us leave us alone forever. You did not look back as you and Jack continued to struggle along, hearing the door slam shut behind you as you and your boyfriend carried Jeff into what had been the surrounding forest. Liam, now not as frightened, did what he could to help carry him. The three of you went on for a few more minutes before you finally collapsed from exhaustion, not only from hauling Jeff all that way, but from the fear, the stress, and the hunger, the lack of sleep, everything. It had taken a severe toll on your body, one that was surely going to take some time to recover. You could only imagine how Jack and Liam were feeling. We have to keep going, you panted, having collapsed to your knees on the prickly forest grass. I can still hear the static. I don't know how long until it wears off. We need to rest, love, Jack argued, placing a hand on your shoulder, sounding just as exhausted as you felt. You and your brother especially. No, you swallowed a lump in your throat. We can't carry him if we're too weak to even carry ourselves, Jack then reasoned. Giving your shoulder a squeeze, he was down on the dirt next to you, and Liam had been lying against the nearby tree, his body limp but heaving with heavy breaths. You opened your mouth to reply, but a different voice beat you to it. Nah, I think you should keep carrying me. It's a good idea. Your bleary eyes shot to Jeff, who was stirring on the ground, and you scrambled through the clumps of dead leaves and other forest debris toward him. Jeff? You asked expectantly, surprisingly. A violent coughing fit burst from him as he rolled painfully onto his side, his knotted hair falling over his face. Jack beat you to him, kneeling next to him. What the hell happened, anyways? I was too far gone to really retain anything earlier. I escaped. Jeff coughed again, breath ragged. In that damn farmhouse. Don't talk, you told him. Just rest. You looked at Jack, not giving the killer any time to argue. He saved us, you began, and then proceeded to explain everything that had happened. From him coming to your cell to the plan he told you to stabbing the faceless creature and saving you all. Jack could not help but smile halfway through your explanation and had not stopped even after you had finished. He let out a chuckle, shifting to sit more comfortably. Seems like you care a lot more than you make yourself out to, Jeff. An uneven sigh worked its way out of the scarred man still curled up on the forest floor. I'd slug you if I could. You rolled your eyes and looked over to where Liam still was on the tree. Liam, you called out to him as he began to haul yourself up to your feet, having since caught your breath. He sluggishly lifted his to look your way, but said nothing. You frowned and lumbered toward him, crunching up brittle leaves as you did so. As you reached him, your heart twisted as you recalled your last interaction with him before the attack in the farmhouse. Was he still mad at you for who you loved? Liam, you called to him again, though this time your voice broke, tears rimming your heavy eyes. You dropped down to your knees in front of him. Please, don't be mad at me. Despite his own exhaustion, he stared into your wavering eyes with his own huge, intense ones. Still not a word slipped from his. Please, you repeated. I'm sorry. I know I should have done more. I could have done more. I know this all happened because I met him, but please, you had run away, and I couldn't find you, and I was so scared, and your words were slowly being lost in those haunted eyes of his. Still, you felt you wanted, or rather needed, to say something to him. I didn't know any of this would happen, and Jack's a good guy, okay? Even if he's not really human, he can't help it. And Jeff is awful, I know, but just please don't be mad at me. Suddenly, Liam's face had twisted and broke into shades of red as tears began to flow from his eyes as he shot forward, throwing his small arms around you. You sucked in a breath as he collapsed into messy, loud sobs, and he squeezed you as tightly as he could, clinging onto you desperately. Slowly, you returned the embrace, though not as harshly, and felt a few tears of your own slip and fall. I'm sorry, your little brother wailed. I'm sorry I was mean to you. He hiccuped. Don't leave me. Don't leave me again. I won't run away. I won't say or do anything bad ever again, please. You held him firmly against you, feeling him soak your shirt with his tears, and your heart pounded guiltily against your chest. It's okay, you try to reassure him with your wobbly voice. It's okay. It's all over now. We won't ever see that god-awful place or any of those hooded people or monsters ever again, okay? I'm not going to leave you, Liam. Ever, okay? As the night went in and you shushed and comforted your little brother until he had no more tears to shed and all of you were once again ready to continue onward. The four of you could easily collapse to the ground and sleep for days as you were, but the matter of leaving that place behind and finding a shelter was all the more pressing. You knew not of where the nearest plot of civilization was, and nor did Jeff or Jack, but you all decided to trek the way the sun rose, walking toward the dawn now gently cascading through the trees. It was unknown where all of you even were on a map, if any of you were still even remotely close to your hometown. You figured, after some more walking, that really it did not matter. None of you needed a map, or to know where you were on one. For now, all you needed was a new direction and a good place to start all over again. That is the end of that chapter. Chapter after that one is the epilogue, chapter 28, Healing. Let me know how you guys feel about that, and I will see you guys in the next video.